Welcome to Synth Sunday. I wanted to show you a fairly simple concept with sequencing a monophonic synth to create almost like a bagpipe-like effect. I'm using the ARP 2600 today, but you could do this with any external mono synth, or if you can change the settings on your polysynth into a monosynth setting, you could create this effect. Let me explain my setup real quick. So I'm using Maschine Plus, and what I'm doing with Maschine Plus is I'm creating a very simple sequence in it, which is then going to be sent out to an analog synth, in this case the ARP 2600M. I'm going to then, as the sequence is playing, I'm going to press down keys on this little MIDI controller here, which is what comes with the ARP 2600M, to interrupt some of the pitches that are programmed within the sequence to create pitches juxtaposed against the drone that is set up within the sequence. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's a fairly simple setup on the ARP, which I'm not really going to go super into detail into here, except it's a combination of oscillators 1 and 2 tuned to the same pitch. Oscillator 3 is an octave higher and just tucked underneath. And then otherwise, it's nothing too fancy. It's a pretty basic sound. And if I just turn it up, I have the filter all the way up, and so it's generating a sound automatically. But when I press play, now actually I should explain what I'm using to the right here. I have a Clickstep Multi. That's what's generating clock. You might be thinking, well, why isn't the machine just generating clock? I don't need to have the clock step running for this particular sound or experiment that we're running, but I tend to run my clock always from the clock step, because if I want to plug in anything else like the dark time, or if I want to connect to the DAW and make sure that I'm syncing well to a DAW or to an SP404 or an OB6, you know, to run the sequencer or arpeggiator on there, I always know I have a really solid clock to run from. And I'm going to make a video about this in the future, but MIDI clock, especially being generated from computers, is very unstable. So just as a habit, I'm always running the Clickstep Multi as my master clock. Now, I'm going to turn up the ARP 2600M, and you can just hear the filter oscillating. If I just hit play, okay, we're hearing this sound coming right now from the ARP 2600. And I have a couple different patches on here, I should say sequences, which I played in using the step sequencing option on here. So if you wanted to, you can get kind of complicated with the patterns, and you can do some interesting sequences to then disrupt with the keyboard. Right now I just have it set to just a pretty straight eighth note pattern. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the patterns, and you can see I have a couple patterns here. I'm going to start just with this, the idea that this pulsing drone is happening. Now if I play a note, you hear it disrupts it, right? It's a really great effect. But what I can do is I'm going to play a different sequence now. And this is alternating between a root and a fifth. And I'm going to play just a different mode. I'm going to play a variety of modes here. It's pretty cool what you could do with modal interchange. You can get very creative with this, and you can go back to just playing all the root notes and do the same thing. I didn't actually research what Pete Townsend used on Baba O'Reilly, but to me it has a very similar sound. There's like a sequence, and it's a monophonic sequence that's being disrupted by notes. and we could do pretty cool things. And right now I'm not recording this, but there's the potential that we could also record this MIDI patch into a machine and actually be able to reproduce the same patch over and over again, and then mess around with the filters as it's happening. I'm gonna hit the play button, and we're just gonna have our sequence going here. I'm just gonna play the melody with my left hand. So here it's kind of fun because it really starts messing with the actual rhythm of the sequence. Just switch to a different filter. This will work with any monophonic analog synthesizer. So right now I'm using ARP 2600 because it's really fun to mess around, and there's a lot of different patches that you can create and places that you can modulate, and it's a semi-modular synth. And so I really like it. But you could also do this with like an OP6 or a Prophet and just put it into its monophonic mode, and you could get some similar operation with it. Now, I do want to mention the Clickstep Multi again, and saying that in theory you can run MIDI sequences out of your DAW into analog synthesizers to trigger patterns. The issue is that, as I mentioned, MIDI clock from computers is a bit unstable. So I use the Clickstep to send clock to my DAW and to any other sequencer, arpeggiator, drum machine. So I have one solid source of time. This just ensures that there's no drift or any weirdness that happens with any kind of MIDI sequences. So as I'm recording, and if I want to overdub parts later, everything is really tight and in sync. So that's the reason I'm using this right now to control. So when I hit play, it actually starts the Maschine Plus, and I do actually have the dark time set up, although I'm not using it to modulate anything right now, but it also turns the dark time on, and often I have multiple synths set up at the same time, where I'm just using this to like kick them all at the same time and just make sure that the clock is really tight.